beauty thrives in the most unlikely place.
Mm.
And so there was this idea of beauty. So the book isn't just bright and powerful, but it's beautiful. And so beauty is contrasted.
And you're locked into another episode of the Animator Podcast, making that intersection between faith and animation and those lovely redemptive analogies each week. My name is Josh, and we are glad to be back with you once again. And as you can see, I got my picnic shirt on. So I guess if I just lay down on the ground, you can start putting all your nice picnic foods, and I'll just feed the table for the day. But without any further ado, none other than Rebecca.
Hey guys, good to see you again.
And we got a really special episode today, so don't want to belabor the moment. I want to get right into it. This episode is kind of a revisitation a bit, because we've actually talked about this film before. And it was actually, I was looking back, Rebecca, this is actually during our first season of the podcast, so we talked about this.
Wow,
so it's
okay.
been a while. Yeah.
That has been a while. I guess it's a good time to come back and do a revisitation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a great guest for this revisitation as well. So, all the way from the UK, we have John Lumgair with us. John, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we want to have our audience get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to ask you a few questions, kind of get your background, and we'll go from there. So, Rebecca, go ahead and proceed with our interview.
Yeah. So first of all, the reason you're on the show, I think, is because you're in animation, and you've got something new coming out, which is really exciting. But before we kind of, I guess, get into that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where are you located, that kind of stuff.
I live in London, although I'm currently not in London. I'm in the west of England, in just above my friend's art studio. So I've been living in London since I was a child.
Where are you located in London, by the way?
So South London, a place called Streatham. And
okay.
Yeah, it's a fun, interesting area to live. Lots of stuff going on.
Nice. Yeah, I lived there actually for a year, getting my master's degree in art history and visual culture, and that was so fun. I was in Kensington, so I'm familiar with some of the areas. London's big; it's really big, and it all kind of has like its different culture, all the different neighborhoods, which is kind of fun. But so yeah, that's cool to hear that about where you're from. So tell us a little bit then about your animation journey. How did you get into animation?
I think my story of getting into animation is very similar to many people, that they watched a lot of TV, and I watched TV and I was like, how do they make these animations? And was just fascinated by the process. I loved the stories. I loved the comedy. The comedy I just loved so much. And then I would make flick books. I would do lots of drawings. I'd love to see the idea that they could come alive, and that really excited me. So then after that, at school I was kind of good at art and not that many other things. Maybe it was certainly my strongest area, and ended up studied animation, which that's the story I have, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's the best way to go actually to do animation. And then did a bit of freelance stuff and started a company doing film and animation in 2006. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow, that's exciting. So you mentioned that maybe not everyone do a degree in animation. How would you suggest, if people want to get into animation, that they would go about doing that?
Yeah, so the the thing with animation is it's not like law or medicine where it really matters to have the qualification. With animation, it matters what your work is. So if you can show you're good, then that's much, much more useful. And there are so many ways you can learn online. There are really good teachers, people like, his name has escaped me, but he's got a website called Creature Art Teacher. Aaron Blaise, who worked on The Lion King and things like this. You can learn from him, which is, you can learn from all sorts of really brilliant people. And then there's really good books. So the Animator's Survival Guide or some of the older books, they have all the things you need to know. The big thing is actually doing it and practicing.
Yeah. Practice, practice, practice. That's what I've learned over my art journey too, honestly. It's just like the more you do it, the better you become, and the more you the more you discover your particular art style. Because within animation, right, there's so many different styles of animation.
Yes, tons of styles.
And it's a really fun process.
Yeah, the variety is what makes it so exciting. The story can determine the style. So you can really have the right style that matches the story that needs to be told. And no other medium does that quite like animation.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm sure we'll talk about that even in today's movie that we'll be discussing, because it absolutely plays a huge role in the story, the animation style. So on average, how long does it take to animate a series or a movie?
So I knew you were going to ask that question. Thanks for sending that in advance. It's a very much a question of how long is a piece of string. I know that's not very helpful, but there's the actual, once you've got script and storyboard, so the actual process of animation, that can be a big range, because it depends how large your team is and how long it is, how complex it is. And so different things take different lengths of time to do, which is really, really unhelpful answer. And so not to dodge it, feature films, they usually spend a couple of years on it. The project I'm doing, which is 22 minutes, we're factoring in about a year for that. But yeah, it depends. We'll have a smallish team. When something like The Simpsons, they have a team working on it on episode 1. They've got another team working on episode 2. Like, lots of these things are running concurrently, which means that they can make things faster. I know that's totally dodging your question.
No, I get it. That was helpful. You know, having particularly like a feature length film time, several years, even just 1 year taking 22 minutes of screen time. That is so much work that goes into producing these types of short films or long films, you know. So that's awesome. There's so many people that work on these projects. So that's great.
And I was just going to add something, actually. When we do stuff for clients, we'll often turn around something that's 5 minutes in a month or two. So some things can be very quick, but it's usually the stuff that's character based and more storytelling that takes longer.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of development of the characters and what are they doing? What would their facial expressions be like? Because each one of them are different. Yeah, that's neat. So speaking of animation, and you mentioned a project that you've got coming up. So tell us a little bit about your new project called Jazz Cow.
Yeah, so Jazz Cow is about a jazz playing cow. And he reluctantly leads a resistance movement to fake filters, to big tech, to the algorithms that kind of controlling the world. And so he and his bunch of weirdo friends, they just want to play jazz, and the people in his area that they want to paint paintings, they want to eat food that takes forever to cook, they want to play chess, they want to live in the real world. But then you've got the fake world of his nemesis, Dr. Pop, and he's trying to get everybody just scrolling on their apps. And so that's the setup of the kind of the series. And then the thing we're trying to raise money for is a pilot, which is going to be a heist episode where Jazz Cow's trying to get his sax back, and he has to fight the system without using the tools of the system. So that's the setup. So it's a silly comedy with some maybe deeper themes under the surface.
Even in just that quick synopsis that you gave, I could really tell that there's like a promotion of living in the present moment, and not so much in the social media apps and things that can really distract us from the here and now. So that's really cool. Sorry, Josh, I like cut you off earlier.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, yeah, it's really an interesting premise. I mean, as soon as you said, it includes jazz, I'm like, sold. Awesome. Well, thank you for all that information.
Pleasures.
Yeah, certainly. So we're going to go ahead and get into our discussion. As I mentioned earlier, this will be about a film that we discussed during our first season of the podcast, and that is The Secret of Kells. Now, last time, we focused primarily on the animation, which we'll, still do. And we also talked a little bit about the history. I think we'll delve a bit more into that as well.
Although Josh cut out quite a bit of my history lesson last time.
We had to make it short. We only had so many minutes in the podcast.
I know.
Special features.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. There you go. And so I guess I just want to get everybody's initial kind of reactions of The Secret of Kells, whether you've seen it many times or this was your first time. So, John, for you, about The Secret of Kells, what do you like about it? What do you dislike? What are some key takeaways that you got from it?
I absolutely love the film, and there are many things I love about it. I think one of the things when I first saw it I've seen it a number of times, and one of the things when I first saw it, I loved the visual style of it. I loved the fact that it was unique. It wasn't trying to be Disney. It wasn't, if you like, Poundland Disney or whatever. I don't know, Dollar Land. It wasn't like a low quality. It was its own thing. It had a really strong graphic style, and the way it fitted with the actual book that it was about, all that meshed together, I just thought was brilliant. And so that drew me in. And then after the kind of initial drawing in, I think the themes that underpin it are brilliant, and they totally resonate with me. So I've only got real praise for it. There's not really much I can say negatively about it at all.
Rebecca, how about you?
Yeah, I've seen it multiple times now at this point, and it's one of my favorite animation movies, particularly from more of like an indie studio, and all of their work is fantastic. I forget the name of the studio, but they're an Irish animation studio, and they're incredible. Such a rich story in The Secret of Kells, and they mesh the history of what we believe happened to the book, and put it so beautifully in this fun and entertaining story that really people of all ages can enjoy. I will say for little children, it could be a bit scary. There's a run-in with was a pagan god, pre-Christian god, called Cromcrick, and that seems a bit scary. I will say. I mean, I'm 33 years old, and it's still a little bit scary. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. But yeah, the animation style is amazing. I love all of the details that they put in. about even like the animation style being a nod even towards the style of the time. Like, so the art of the time, and this would be the late 8th, early 9th century. And they didn't really have a concept, I guess, of perspective in their art. And so you can see that when in the Secret of Kells, that things look flat. They've like pulled it up. When we know, like we would draw it today, we would draw the perspective. And in the Secret of Kells, they didn't do that. They did it like, the perspective was off, and that's on purpose. And I really liked that nod to like, that's what was going on in art at that time. So that was really cool. And just like, yeah, the themes that they pulled in from the book is like, it was great. It's great.
Absolutely. Resonating off of what both of you have said, I've seen this a few times, and it just still amazes me each time. Secret of Kells is, of course, referring to the what we think might happen to the Book of Kells, in which I referred to, I think, in our episode. I think the subheader was the first graphic novel of the gospel. But yeah, I love the animation style, the whole story, and it's not that long either. It's only a little bit over an hour. So, I mean, even though it's not, full length by other standards, it's still a great film, and it tells you a lot within a short amount of time. So, really love it. Before we get too far into it, for those that may not be familiar with the Secret of Kells, Rebecca, can you go ahead and give us a bit of a synopsis?
Yeah. So I'll read the synopsis that we've already got down, because I could go for a really long time on the synopsis here. So adventure awaits 12-year-old Brendan. Is it Brendan or Brandon?
It's Brendan.
It's Brendan. Yeah. It's definitely Brendan. Okay. 12-year-old Brendan, who must fight Vikings and a serpent god to find a crystal and complete the legendary Book of Kells. In order to finish Brother Aidan's book, Brendan must overcome his deepest fears in a secret quest that will take him beyond the abbey walls and into the enchanted forest, where dangerous mystical creatures hide. It's a very interesting synopsis. I hadn't read that before. I mean, it's true. Yeah. Everything is true. It's interesting, though, that it doesn't even, and the whole story itself, it never really talks about what exactly the Book of Kells is.
Yeah, they do a nod to it. Like Brother Aidan says when he's talking to the abbot, where that is so consumed about and concerned about the wall because of the Vikings that are going to come in, and Brother Aidan like kind of sees through that and say, well, no, this is important. This brings hope.
Mm-hmm.
So even those who are not believers, they can kind of like see that correlation a bit. But I want to go through a few themes. We have some notes here. So Rebecca, do you want to start us off with one of the key themes that you have brought out?
Sure. So first of all, just to kind of go off exactly, what is the Book of Kells? So the Book of Kells is an illuminated manuscript of the 4 Gospels. That's what it is. From the late 8th, early 9th century. It takes place, the short history, which is included in the movie, is that it's begun on the island of Iona, which is a little island off the coast of Scotland. And the Vikings came in and they destroyed the abbey. One person got away. This would be Brother Aidan in the story. And he flees to Ireland to Kells, the abbey that's at Kells. And that is where the book is finished, which is why it's called the Book of Kells. So main themes. Oh, man. Bringing light into the darkness, I think, is the main theme of this little movie. And banishing the darkness. with light. And it is the book, the Gospels, that bring the light and the hope. As Josh, you just said, that is, I think, the overarching theme of the story. So yeah, I don't know if the animators who, or individuals who created this story were Christian. So I don't know what their intention was, but that's what I see. As a Christian, it's the hope of Christ, banishing the darkness, battling the demons inside of you. Those are the main themes that I see.
Yeah. And related to bounce off of, banishing the darkness and coming forth the light, we see that, kind of really literally when Brendan goes into the forest outside the walls for the first time. And we have these dark wolves coming at him. And then we have the spirit of that forest, who we later learn is Ashley, and just howls and
I don't know why, but that particular scene was really satisfying.
Oh, really?
When all the wolves like sit up really straight and they're just like looking around, and then boom, whoosh, they scatter. And it was just like, wow, I don't know, something that was just really satisfying.
Well, I mean, they take notice and they know that, this is, this is, important. This is something that, commands attention and authority. Kind of like, and I can always remember like a particular like passage or a story. I can remember the book or the verse, but it's always it reminds me of the passage where I think there's a picture where in the demons bow at Jesus' feet, because they know who he is, and they flee. Whenever it's commanded. We sometimes, for the prayer that, hey, flee in Jesus' name. And that commands power and authority for any like, demonic spirit that might be present. So John, for you, what is, any other themes that you had chosen out or you would like to expound on, kind of what Rebecca has put on so far?
So, at the beginning, or fairly early on in the film, there's a quote that says, "Beauty thrives in the most unlikely place," and so there was this idea of beauty. So the book isn't just bright and powerful, but it's beautiful, and so beauty is contrasted, and it's got almost like this Garden of Eden feel, because you've got the garden that they're in, but then outside is chaos, and so. See this kind of idea where you've got the center and then you've got this marginal world, and in it, it's the pagan gods are real and they still have power, and yet they've got this kind of center where everything is safe, but they've got to maintain it. And you've got this thing of borders, because obviously the abbot's trying to build up all the walls to keep them safe, but actually the message has to get out. And there's these kind of, and it's how much of the fringe should you let in? Should you let in Ashley? And what is Ashley? And how does that fit within the kind of the ideas that you would find in the Gospels? She's not a demon, but she's not, what is she? Like, so that kind of the world of enchantment in a way that it's, and particularly in our era where in the last few years, I think there's been more openness in society to the idea of a more enchanted world. So this idea of this fringe that's a bit enchanted, but who knows what's going on with it is, I find really, really interesting. And so that's another kind of another layer, but it matches with the light and darkness thing. It's kind of just another angle on it, really.
Absolutely. And what you said, that others trying to keep up the walls to, keep people safe. But yeah, there's this message inside of it that needs to get out. I think we kind of, I think all Christians have made, this statement. It's like, oh yeah, saved, on fire for Jesus. And, I love the gospel, but we should just keep it to ourselves. The commandment is to share the good news. So yeah, and also piggybacking off of Ashley, I wouldn't classify her as a demon, but what is she? Is she a forest spirit? Is she a fairy, as Brendan suspects that she is? In the beginning of the movie, we hear something to the effect of that I've existed throughout many ages. So is she an angel? Is she a deity? Rebecca, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is really interesting to think about what is Ashley and like you said, John, how does she fit in to all of this? She's one of the more, I don't know, interesting pieces, I think, of this story to think about. And I tend to think that she's she talks about it as her forest. And I think she is kind of I don't know, the spirit of the forest. It could even be too, she represents nature and the introduction into nature that you can communicate with, not with nature, but just with God in nature. There's a point where Brother Aiden talks to Brendan and he's like, you got to get out of here. I got to, out of these walls. Because there's this idea that you can communicate with God and experience his presence in nature. And perhaps that's kind of what Ashley is doing, is almost like a guide into how do you explore the world? What's outside of the world? She's a very sort of spiritual being in a way, which I find interesting. And John, I love that you mentioned that in our world, it seems like people are really waking up to spiritual aspects of life in general. And I see that too, even in the psychology world. It seems like we've been in this, I think it's the fifth wave is what it's technically called in psychology. And that's all about neuroscience. And I think it has a different word, but whatever, it's the same thing. Looking at our brains. I think we're kind of moving into, and other people I've read agree with this, moving into really wanting spirituality to be integrated into our lives, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever, all of those things, but just a general awareness, I guess, of spirituality, which I find interesting.
And I don't think it was like that a few years ago. I think there's been quite a shift. I was at a talk a book launch, and I thought it would be hyper secular. And the guy, although he didn't believe in any God, believed that there were thousands of unseen creatures everywhere that were spiritual. And I thought that was really interesting. And I thought that is the world that surrounds Kells in a way. It's that, or the Abbey. It's that fringe outside. It's interesting because and I know that the Anglo-Saxon Christians really debated what they do with the old gods. Are they nothing? Are they demons? Are they different kinds of entities? So that there was a kind of a debate going on at the time. Because I guess they had to try to put things together now as Christians with the world that they'd had before. And yeah, a lot of people today go, oh, they kind of think that they weren't as Christian as I think they were.
Yeah, they were really wrestling, I think. I agree with you, because there was so much that was trying to come in, I guess, and take away their faith in a way, or like morph and change it. And I'm sure they got great comfort from books of the New Testament, assuming they had access to them. Yeah, because they have the Gospels. But the First Corinthians, or the letters to the Corinthians, I'm sure they got great comfort from that, just because it's all about, what do you do with that? What do you do with pagan gods? How do you live your life? The letters from Paul, he dealt so much with that. And yeah, how do you integrate all of that?
So let's go into a bit of the history. I'm going to let you guys hit the lead on this because you're much well versed in it than I am.
I don't know a huge amount. I know more about King Alfred and what was happening in England, but it mirrors quite a lot of the things that happen in the world today, where you've got like a small Christian community, and then you've got external groups, in this case the Vikings, Norsemen, coming in to kill and to steal from them. And I thought it was really interesting that King Alfred was translating the Bible, but he was also a man that was a military man that was trying to protect the country. And he was also trying to figure out where he's fusing the old Germanic codes and then the Bible, and how was he putting those things together. I think there's just that era of history. There's lots of, it's forming of a people, really. And so I know more of the English side than the Irish, but I imagine it's the same kind of process. Something I wrote down in a note that I wanted to mention was, I remember when I was about 8, someone reading the poem The Dream of the Rood, and Rood is the word for cross in Anglo-Saxon. And although it was an Anglo-Saxon poem, it was so creative and so weird that I was just like, wow, this is incredible. But it's got all these like pagan motifs, but they're kind of put under Christ. And the whole poem is about the cross itself, the actual wood. And it's the wood's experience, which is just such a weird take on these things. So I think there's just all these ideas that are flowing around at the time, because you get that with Beowulf as well, which is similar period, where they're getting all these pagan ideas and they're trying to work. It's a thoroughly Christian thing, but they're using these pagan ideas, almost baptizing them in a way.
Yeah, I think we can see even too, it can be really dangerous to do that. We can see that even today, I think, with certain large Christian organizations who are particularly trying to take more New Age views and practices and somehow, like you said, baptize them and make them Christian, and they just aren't. So that can be difficult. But things like meditation, which most of the world views as secular and not Christian, is actually a Christian idea. It is mentioned in the Bible, meditating on scripture. It just looks different from what like Buddhist meditation looks like. And so I think finding similarities is perfectly fine, as long as it's scripturally based. And I'm sure, the people of the time, during this historical time period, they had some difficulties trying to do that as well. I'm sure we've all kind of heard how like Easter was that time frame was something in the pagan world. I forget.
Although a lot of that stuff has been invented by atheists in order to debunk, and then you look into it and you realize these things are a lot more Christian than they're given credit for, actually.
Well, that's nice
Yeah.
to hear.
It's I heard a talk about this is one of the things about Christmas trees, and they're saying, oh, it's really, really pagan, but actually, the Boniface, who was the guy that cut down the Christmas tree, he did it to prove that this pagan god wasn't real. So it wasn't a pagan thing; it was actually an anti-pagan thing. But then people years later go, "Oh, see, you're doing this pagan thing," and it's like, well, it's not actually pagan.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, I find with symbols like that, like a Christmas tree or other things, is you kind of make them what you want it to be. It's kind of like how the Bible talks about, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And money itself can't be evil, like so many people tend to think. It's an easy misinterpretation, but it's an inanimate object. It is neither good nor evil. It is what we make of it that is good or evil. And same thing with a Christmas tree, I think, or some of these other symbols. You kind of take it how you want to take it. I think being careful too, though, as well about, there's also, the scripture talks about not causing your brother to stumble or be a stumbling block for your brother. And so keeping that in mind, I think, is also important. It's all a balance. It's all about, it's all about balance. How do you take things? So you mentioned a poem, which I thought was really fun, about the cross from the Woods perspective. Fascinating. It sounds really interesting. I may go look that up. But there was another poem that's actually nodded to here in the Secret of Kells, and that is the cat. Did you pick up on this, John?
No, I didn't. I mean, the cat was a great character.
Yeah. So his name was Pangerbon. And apparently, Pangerbon is an old Irish poem that a monk wrote about his white cat. And Bon, I think, is white. It means white. And then Panger was the cat's name. So the name of the cat. So it's White Cat, or White Panger is the name of this little poem. And it was just like an ode to the cat of like, oh, you're so wonderful, Panger Bon. Which I thought was really funny, and how, even in the art of the Book of Kells, there's quite a few references to cats and mice. And I think at one point the mice are even like fighting over a Eucharist, which was pretty funny. So yeah, I thought that was a really fun little nod to the time period.
Yeah, with Penguin, I think there is even a song that Ashley sings.
Oh, yes, she does. She
Yes.
does.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do
Yeah,
with
yeah. I was
the
just saying
poem,
that
but
maybe I'm not into it. But yeah, so all this talk of expelling the darkness, letting the light in, that's the overall theme. The overall theme is hope. And for either of you, so have either of you seen the actual Book of Kells or a copy of it?
Yes, I have seen the physical copy. It's kept in Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. And it truly, so in the story, they were talking, or in The Secret of Kells, they were talking about, being blinded by its beauty and sinners being saved, which is, of course, very dramatic. But there is something ethereal about it. Honestly, it is absolutely gorgeous to see, particularly the gold that they used. I don't remember if it was like gold paint or gold leaf or something, but it still shimmers. It's beautiful. And they keep it's in this teeny tiny little room. They only let so many people in at a time. And it's really dark to protect the pages. And they change the page every so often. So if you go like multiple times, you might get to see, I forget how often they change it, but you'll get to see different pages of the book. And it is gorgeous. It's worth it. Honestly, it's worth it to make a trip to Dublin to go see it. In fact, I did. I was studying in London, and my friends in the program, I was like, I really want to go to Dublin. We all went specifically for the Book of Kells. Well, I did anyway. I don't think my other friends did. But I was like, that's what I want to see. I want to see that book. And totally worth it. Totally worth it.
I've not seen it. I'd love to. I've seen reproductions in books, but not the actual book.
Yeah, it's worth it, John. If you can get over there to Dublin,
it's not far from us, really.
Yeah, not well, a lot closer anyway than we are. But yeah, it's great. It's I love it so much, actually. The book that for Christmas one year, my dad actually gave me a reproduction of the whole book. So I have like a whole book of the Book of Kells, a reproduction, which is really cool. And what's really interesting from my research way back when I did research on this book, they actually, I'm pretty sure they invented a machine specifically for this book to be able to turn the pages with puffs of air so that you didn't have to touch it and potentially damage the book, the pages. Yeah, I was like, that's amazing that they could just like little puffs of air to turn the page so you wouldn't damage it. It's incredible.
Maybe we should bring that back. So we just don't have to physically turn pages anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the character of Brendan a little bit. He is a boy living in the Abbot. He doesn't have, a quote unquote family. Do they say like whatever happened to him, or he just doesn't have, parents? I don't know that.
I don't think they said specifically what happened, just that he doesn't have parents. I find it interesting though that he tells Ashley at one point that he doesn't have family.
But he does.
But uncle. He does have an uncle. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I mean, maybe an absent uncle at the time.
Just emotionally absent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
although the uncle is doing his best in his own mind to protect him, so he might not be getting it right, but his motive is good, and it forms a lovely connection with him and Ashley. That's like the thing that tips her into engaging with him rather than seeing him as a threat.
Yeah, because they have a mutual connection. He says, well, I don't have a family. It's like, oh, I'm not alone as well. Rebecca, when you were reading the synopsis, we know that Ren has to like come over his fears, come over his like doubts. And that is his own personal journey throughout this entire movie. And he wants to be an illustrator, but he doesn't think that he has, the forthright or, even the talent to do so until he starts spending more time with Brother Aiden. And Brother Aiden knows that he takes a keen interest in what he's doing. And he says, well, if you want to help, I will teach you, how to scribe. We'll get the little feathers from the goose to make the writing utensils, and we'll make the ink. And towards the end of the movie, we see this like time of like progression where Aiden and Brendan go out from the wall after the Vikings have, come in and invaded. And they'll like a house out in the woods, and you see just them working on this book, continuously. I'm not sure, obviously it was a long passage of time because we see like very grown up Brendan by the time that he comes back to the Abbey to see his uncle. Do we know like time wise like how long that took?
No, I mean, I would imagine he was probably 8, I guess, when he was living at the Abbey. And then, I don't know, it seemed like, it could have been 10 years. It looked like the...
more like 20. It looked like.
Maybe 10 to 20. Yeah, so he could have been 28 by the time he came back. But yeah, it didn't look like there was a specific time. I didn't pick up on anything anyway.
Rebecca, is there any other like scene that like stood out to you in this movie?
Well, to go off of what you started talking about, Josh, with Brendan, he does. You're right. He really does struggle within himself to become an illustrator, to think he's good enough. And he really has to, we all talk about fighting our demons. In this case, he actually literally went and did that. He went into the cave of Crom Cruach, which is sort of, if you want to say, he's one of the villains in a way. And so he goes in there, and really it almost seems like he's fighting with himself, though, because it's not until he goes and he defeats Crom Cruach, or it looks like a serpent, which is interesting in and of itself, to sort of nod to maybe the devil, Satan, evil, whatever you want to call it. And I know it has different significance in pagan symbolism, and I don't know what that is, but I know it's different.
And St. Patrick was famous for clearing all the snakes from Ireland.
That's right. Yes, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so he goes in, and Brendan really defeats that part, and then when he comes out on the other side, he feels more confident, and he can create the art now. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of his journey of feeling more confident about himself.
That makes sense, because it's like the coming of age thing. You have to go through struggle. He has to leave the home of the abbey in order to find out who he is, what he's doing. So he can't just he'll never be able to do that until he leaves, until he works out who he is, and then come back. And yeah, there's that. It's the encouragement of Aidan that is the real thing there, because he sees value. They both see value in the book, which I think his uncle knows, but he's forgotten.
Yeah, and how we can be so often, we can be like the abbot, in that we forget the hope that the word brings, and we can become so focused on building up the walls of our heart and of our lives, and really shutting the darkness out, or trying to, in our own strength, relying on our own strength to do that, when really, if we just rely on the hope of the Gospels and really being in community with God, then that's where true strength comes from, not from ourselves and what we can do. And the abbot gets it in the end. He does, and hopefully so do we. And speaking of hope, I found it really interesting. There were these flowers were everywhere throughout the story. Brendan draws these little flowers. I think they're snowdrop flowers. I think that's the name of them. And so I looked up the symbol of what do snowdrop flowers mean, and they mean hope. And I thought that was really beautiful. If that indeed is the flower that they're portraying, like, that fits perfectly in with the story.
Yes.
So kind of, running in for Lent, because we've talked about a lot. Any other final thoughts from John, Rebecca, anyone regarding the movie? Any points that you want to make sure that we touched upon that we haven't already?
I think the idea of imagination. So the faith is an imaginative faith. It's not just they're not just copyists of the Bible, which would be a perfectly legitimate exercise and more efficient. No, they are taking it and they are creating a beautiful object, an imaginative object, and at the heart of this is imagination. And in a way, they're not going to be able to push back the Vikings, who eventually became Christian, right? They eventually. I often say to some of my Somali friends that talk about the violence in their culture, and say, well, you know how peaceful the Swedish are? That wasn't what they were. They've gone from being like, oh, we don't get involved in any wars, to today compared with what they were. And I think that it's the imaginative and the beautiful and that is wrapped up. So it's not just here is the cold clinical truth, but here is the cold clinical truth here is the truth in a beautiful wrapper. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that goes along even with, Jesus telling stories and parables. He was using his creativity to share the gospel, and in the same way, the monks were using beauty and creativity to share the gospel as well. And I think the early Christians really leaned into creativity and imagination and partnership with God more than we do today. I mean, it looks different, so maybe that's what it is. But it just kind of feels like, wow, that attention to detail and beauty. And I guess it is still used today in like our movies and our other art that we produce. But they truly knew how to partner with God and create something absolutely stunning. My favorite page out of the whole book, which they feature in this film, is the Key Row page. And when I was looking it up just yesterday, someone had said that it was the world's most intricate and beautiful monogram. And I was like, yeah, because Key Row in Latin means Christ. So I thought that's interesting.
That is interesting. I thought there was the quote, the Norsemen are here and you are here drawing, was what the abbot says. And he's so fixated on fear and this idea that doing the intricate Cairo, that there's any value in it. The abbot doesn't see that. And so many in our society today don't see that. But actually, the Norsemen are here and you're drawing. Well, the drawings are lasting. We still have them. And it's horrible, the things that they went through. It's horrible to have your place destroyed by Norsemen. I don't want to undermine that in any way. But we do still have the drawings and people still go to Dublin to see them today. Probably every day of the week, they probably go and see them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's that hope, that beauty. It's Christ ultimately that lasts forever. And the fear is temporary.
Absolutely.
As horrible and awful as it was, like you said, to go through that attack, the darkness, the pain, all of that. It was a moment. And I think it helps to have that hope.
Yeah, with all the chaos, conflict, I mean, that's the message that we definitely, just want to present. It's like, God's in control. There is hope everlasting. So we hope that this episode has been a big encouragement to you, maybe a bit of a history lesson as well. Again, the Book of Kells is, the gospel in a illustrative form. We want to thank John for being on with us today. John, for those who want to keep up with you, what you're up to, or maybe want to find out more information about JazzCow, where can they find, where can they go?
Yeah, so the best place for JazzCow is jazzcow.co.uk, jazzcow.co.uk. And there you can find a link to a newsletter. You can find the notify me when we launch on Kickstarter button and read a bit about JazzCow. My company's Quirky Motion, Quirky, Motion. And if you look at that, that's where our social media stuff is. Or search for my name. Feel free to drop me a message and I will respond, probably. I'm not very good at it, but I will respond. I'll intend to anyway.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we'll have the links to all of that down in the description. So if anyone wants to go ahead and support that project, get what they're doing, just stay up to the know.
When is the projected launch date, by the way, for Jazz Cow?
So September is probably the month we'll go for. Probably the 24th, which is just before my birthday. But I haven't nailed that down, partly because we moved a date once. I don't want to announce a date and then move it again. But yeah, 24th of September is what's currently in my head.
Things change all the time, we know, for projects. So yeah, around that time sounds good.
Well, until next time, keep those halos shiny and stay holy, my friends.